Students, you've hopefully just come from the first practice problems for practice problem for completing the square. Here is practice problem number 1. I forgot to do something, so if you can go to the bottom of this, and it'd be nice if we actually circled this final answer, since this is the end result of completing the square, which is changing standard form into vertex form. All right, let's go ahead and go to the second one. Again, if you pause the video right now, try this problem, follow those steps, and see if you can come up with the correct answer. All right, I'm assuming you're back and you're ready to go through the steps to see how you did. Let's go ahead and follow these steps in our flipbook again. Step number 1, write the original equation or function in proper order. This is already in proper order, so we can skip that step. Step number 2, move the c term. Let's go ahead and draw step number 2. Move the c term to the other side of the equation. So it's going to be y plus 3 equals x squared minus 4x. Now class, in this practice, I'm going to skip a few steps. I'm not going to write out every step like I did. You're going to see how you can shorten this process a little bit and still accomplish every step. So step number 2, move the c term over to the left side. Remember, when we cross the equal sign, we flip the sign. Step number 3, if a is negative, or there is a GCF, and the coefficients on the right side, then factor it out. Take a look at our coefficients. The coefficient on x squared is just 1. The coefficient on x is negative 4. There's no GCF between those two. So I can just write over here, my GCF is 1 and a is positive. So I don't have to do that step either. Step number 4, write the final values. Write the final values of a, b, and c. Well, a is equal to 1. Remember, we're looking at the right side only. A is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 4, and c is equal to 0. Again, check your work on step 4. A is 1, we're good to go. C is 0. If either one of those were not correct, we would have to stop our process and see what our problem is. Okay, next step, step number 5. Rewrite our equation and put a blank space on both sides. So y plus 3 plus some number is equal to x squared minus 4x plus some number. And where do we get that some number? We get it by finding the value of b over 2 squared. Well, our b value is negative 4. So it's negative 4 over 2 squared. Negative 4 over 2 is negative 2. And remember, class, any number squared turns positive, so we're going to get a positive 4. In fact, if you notice in step number 5, I put a positive there already. I know that number is going to be positive because we're going to be squaring it. So the number that goes here is 4. I'm going to write it in right here in step number 5. So this is step 6. We just wrote it back into our original equation. Okay, step number 7, factor the right side. Well, this is a perfect square now. We know that because that's what the 4 does. It creates a perfect square. So step number 7, we're going to rewrite our equation. In fact, class, I can go ahead and do step number 8 at the same time. Let's do that. So this is going to be step number 7 and step number 8. Step number 8 says add the common terms on the left side. Well, 3 plus 4 is 7. So y plus 7. There's step number 8. Step number 7 is factor the right side. Now you can go through the whole process of factoring here, but you don't have to do that, class. I know from step number 5, from finding this number 4, this is a perfect square. Write an x. Don't write a sign, write a blank space, and put a square there. How do we find our perfect square value? Well, that comes from the value of b over 2. And I put it in the last practice I did it in parentheses. You don't have to do that. b is negative 4. So negative 4 over 2. So b over 2 is negative 2. So now we have a minus 2 in here. take a look at step 7/8. We already have our left side done. We already have our right side done. All we have to do is step number 9, which is move the 7 back to the other side. And when we do that, it changes from positive across the equal sign. It changes to negative. We've got y equals x minus 2 squared minus 7. So, number 2, the standard form quadratic has now become a vertex form. Circle that. Go to question number 3. Take a shot at that. Practice now what you've gone through and pause the video and then come back and we'll go through the steps again together. Okay, I'm assuming you have given this a shot. Try to complete the square. I'm going to continue on with my shortcuts here through these steps, but I'll talk you through them. I'm not going to write the step numbers anymore, class. Now I'm just going to go ahead and step through the process in your flip book, but I'll skip writing the step numbers. Step number 1, write the original equation or function in proper order. We're good to go here. Step number 2, move the c term over to the right, to the left side. We're going to subtract 7 from both sides. So we have, oh, you know, I just realized something. I'm skipping something here. Class, step number 2, I'm sorry, I got it. Apologize for that. Move the c term over. Let's do that. I was thinking I missed a step. Y minus 7 equals negative 2x squared plus 4x. Step number 3, if a is negative or there is a GCF. Oh my goodness, in this one, class, we've got both. We have a GCF. Take a look at the GCF on your left or right side. We've got a 2 and a 4. We know the GCF is 2. Remember how to find a GCF. Pick the lowest coefficient and check and see if it goes into all the numbers over here, and it does. Now class, remember on this step it says find the GCF in the coefficients. Do not pull out the x value. We do that in factoring, but not in completing the square. The other thing we notice here is that the a value is negative, and that means the actual GCF that we're taking out is negative 2. It's negative 2. Let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to write that in red. So the left side stays the same. The right side, we're going to factor out a negative 2. We're going to be left with x squared minus 2x. Let's check our work. Negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x. Check. Negative 2 times negative 2x is positive 4x. Check. Okay, so we've factored out that negative 2. Okay, now write the final values of a, b, and c. Let's take a look. We've got a equals 1, b equals negative 2, and c equals 0. Check our work. A is 1, we're good. C is 0, we are good to go. Next step, make a blank space on both sides. So we're going to do y minus 7 plus some number equals negative 2. Actually, you know what, class? I'm going to move this over a little bit because you're going to see it's going to take a little more work. Okay. Equals negative 2. Now, class, here is a little more difficulty. We're going to put the blank space inside of the parentheses. This is where it belongs. And you're going to see mathematically that creates a little bit of a problem. It's not bad, but it does create a little bit of a problem. Because the next step here now, at step number 6, we have to find the value that goes in this blank space. That's not a problem. We found that with b over 2 squared. And b over 2 squared is, what is our b value? Our b value is negative 2. So it's negative 2 over 2 squared. Negative 2 over 2 is just negative 1 squared. And that is equal to 1. So our b over 2 squared is just 1. We're going to put a 1 in this space. And the question is, what do we put over here? Now class, I hope you see this mathematically. When we add a 1 inside parentheses, we didn't just add a 1 on this whole right side. We added negative 2 times 1. Notice that negative 2 is going to get redistributed here, and we actually added negative 2 times 1, which is negative 2, which changes this value over here. I'll leave that plus, but I'm going to put plus negative 2. Again, if you can see, if I put a 4 over here, I didn't just add 4 to the whole right side. I added negative 2 times 4, because if we distributed this, it would be this factored number multiplied by this number. So when we added 1 over here now, it got a little more complicated. We actually added negative 2 to both sides. Okay, let's factor the right side and simplify the left side. So on the left side, negative 7 plus negative 2 is actually negative 9. And the right side, we're going to still have this negative 2. And remember, I just put an X and a blank and a closed parentheses and a square. And the question is, what number? Let's do this real quick. Let's draw an arrow here so you see where this number came from. This blank space is filled with the value that we get from taking b over 2. b over 2, which is b is, let's see where it is, b is negative 2. So it's negative 2 over 2, which is actually negative 1. So this number gets plugged in over here, negative 1. Now if you took x squared minus 2x plus 1 and factored it, class, you'd get x minus 1 times x minus 1. And that we can write as x minus 1 squared. So again, this is just a shortcut to factor the right side. It always works when we're completing the square. Don't try to use any of these formulas when you are factoring. They don't work. They work only for completing the square. Okay, we've already factored the right side. We've already simplified the left side. Now all we have to do is move the 9 back over to the other side. I'll change my color again, and that's going to be y equals negative 2 times x minus 1 squared. When 9 comes over the other side, the sign flips and then ends up being plus 9. And we have now completed the square for question number 3. Now class, one of the things you can do on these completing the square problems is you can check them just like factoring. Just like factoring. Let's go back on our first one and let's go ahead and, I got a few minutes here, let's go ahead and recombine these or redistribute these and see if we get the same answer. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in green. Let's try this. This is just x plus 4 times x plus 4 minus 49. Let's go ahead and distribute. This is x times x plus 4 times x plus 4. Don't forget the minus 49. Let's continue to distribute. This is x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16 minus 49. We can combine these two terms together and these two terms together, and we end up with x squared plus 8x and positive 16 minus 49 is negative 33. Let's take a look and see if that's where we started. I'm not even sure. X squared plus 8x minus 33. X squared plus 8x minus 33. So you can see we can check our work. If you would, class, for your assignment to be turned in later, I want you also to do these two problems, and I want you to go ahead and redistribute this one, question number 2, and I want you to redistribute question number 3 and verify that you have completed the square properly. If you can get back to the original standard form for both of those, then we know you have correctly completed the square. Hope this all has helped and makes sense to you.